So today I'm going to be going through my 10 crystal commandments.
It's the 10 crystal commandments.
Number one, we want to make sure that our crystals were ethically sourced, fair trade. There was no slave labor involved in it. There were no children involved in it, no forced labor, no desperate families, which is kind of what's happening nowadays, especially in countries that have a little bit more flexibility around ethically sourcing and fair trade and all of these other things. Pretty much places where you're not going to find many rules, you're going to find those kinds of practices. So verifying that, at least doing your best to verify it and not just taking someone's word for it. Verify it. We have to protect this industry from the slave labor, like especially child slave labor and families that are brought into the fold and forced to work very, very long, hard hours for basically just to pay for them to eat scraps of food, which is unfortunately the common thing in this industry. Try your best not to use other people's sales narratives, meaning that there's so many people in the industry right now using misinformation to sell their product. Be genuine and be authentic in your approach to selling your material. Do things that make you feel good about selling your material and not just read something off the internet or out of one of these books written by somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about. And then you take that information and it's biblical to you. It becomes absolute to you. So just again, create a sales narrative around what you're doing that is honest and authentic. Number three is know your material. Know the names of the material, the proper names of the material. Also try your best to know where the material came from. The process that it took to get into your hands is really important when you're selling it to your client. Number four, admit your mistakes. It's okay if you make a mistake. Most of us are not geologists. Most of us are figuring this stuff out as we go, especially in a world where everyone's just creating their own trade names for stuff. Sometimes it's so hard to keep track of what's this and what's that and labeling your material properly. But at the end of the day, if you make a mistake and you spread misinformation, don't be afraid to admit it. Don't be afraid to say I made a mistake. And if someone's going to crucify you over a mistake that you made, then so be it. What are you going to do? But again, don't be afraid to admit when you're wrong, because it's going to happen. Don't defend misinformation, because then it becomes disinformation. I'm going to borrow this from Big E, which is don't get high on your own supply. And essentially what I'm saying there is not that you want to just not collect your own stuff or not save stuff, but make sure that you are very selective about what you save and what you hold on to. It's okay to hold on to really rare material, really exotic material, but if it's a common material or if it's common stuff, just sell it. You got to remember, you're in the business of selling crystals, not keeping them. So while you might hear from me very often, make sure you keep the good stuff. Don't be afraid to let it go when it's time to let it go. Or sell the really good material, but make sure that you catch a fair price for that. Common materials or standard stuff, you just, it's there to come and go. But with the more rare stuff, make sure that, you always remember that it is for sale too. Make sure you're in the business for the right reasons. You want to be in the business because you love it. And if you're in the business because you love it, then you're going to love what you do. And this is one of those industries that requires that from us. It requires care and patience and dedication and love. If you don't have that, then you're in the wrong industry. There's so many other things you can do. If you're going to be in the crystal business, make sure that there's love involved in the soup. Number seven, we want to make sure that we stay in our own lane. We don't want to get involved in what other people are doing. We don't want to start to compete with our competitors, nor do we want to think about it in that way. Make sure that you don't slander your competitors, that you don't start naming your competitors by name and saying bad things about them. Again, do your best to. Sometimes it's really hard, especially when people are coming after you or when people are slandering you. But again, remember, staying in your own lane is super important. You don't need to compete with the bad guys. You don't need to get involved with what they're doing. And if you're doing really well, don't brag about how good you're doing. Don't compare apples to oranges. Don't let everybody else feel like you're killing it and you're doing so well and everybody else is struggling. Be humble about what you have. Be humble about what you're doing and appreciate it. Try to learn a new stone every day. One of the things that we're having a big issue in this industry is that people don't know their material, they don't know what they have, but if you just take one stone a day, research it, learn about it, where does it come from, where are the origins of it, what was it used in, and you really build information and knowledge around one stone a day, That's 365 stones you're going to learn in a year. If you're going to be in this industry, the information that you have is more valuable than anything else. Make sure that whoever you're doing business with fits your business model. What I'm seeing so often is people just doing business for the sake of doing business. People think, oh, I need to get every cent, I need to get every dollar. That's not true. Do business with people who share your same morals, your standards, your ethics. Integrity and consistency are so important. If you find suppliers in this industry that have integrity, that have consistency, this is better than any news you're going to get from a supplier. Trust me, I've been doing this a long time. If you find somebody who makes sense to you, who you feel good about, stick with that person, stay with that company for as long as you possibly can. The thing that I see most people doing is that eventually, after they have some success in the industry, they start going after the cheapest price. And you got to remember, you get what you pay for. So going after the cheapest thing, you're going to get the cheapest thing done the cheapest way. And here's number 10, my most important commandment of this industry. Don't entertain entitled clients. If a client is entitled, delusional, irrational, combative, doesn't want to do things in a civil way, end it. Don't continue further. Don't accept their money. Don't take their business. And if you wound up in a situation like that where you didn't really know you were dealing with a client like that and you did business with them, it's no problem to either issue their money back, get the material back, rectify it, but either way, you want to cut ties with that kind of client immediately. It never ends well, it never goes well, and it's one of the things that I see really kill people in this industry, is you thinking the customer is always right, I need to do what the customer says, I need that customer. No, what you need to do is do good business with good people. Run from entitled, aggressive people. They are not going to serve you or your business purpose. They're going to make things unenjoyable. They're going to suck the joy out of what you're doing. And if you're not happy with what you're doing, if there's not joy around what you're doing, then it's kind of pointless. You could do anything at any time, whatever's the most convenient thing for you to do. In this industry, the one thing that I've always tried to hold on to was my excitement and my passion and my joy for things. And I was able to do that by removing bad business from the table. So do good business with people who want to do good business. Anyway, hope this helped. Hope you learned something. I love you all. See you next time.